Good evening. I'm Doris Stingott, President of the League of Women Voters of White Plains. I welcome those of you who are here tonight, those on live stream, and those watching the recordings of this afterwards. The League is a nonpartisan organization whose mission is voter education and empowerment. We are pleased to provide this candidate forum for the White Plains community. This is a collaborative effort, so thanks to Michelle Melendez, the Board of Education Secretary, to John Shepard and Joe Hughes of the White Plains Public School TV for recording and live streaming, to our League members, Alan Cass, Beth Kava, and Libby Hallahan, who organized this meeting, and to those who are working at this event. We encourage you to learn more about us, to join the White Plains League, and, most important, to vote on May 9th between 12 and 9 p.m. This is a contested election. League rules require a moderator who does not live in our community. We are grateful to John Hessel of the New Rochelle League for serving in that role. John will explain the ground rules and introduce the candidates and begin the forum. Please note that in addition to the questions to be asked this evening, candidates have completed information forms answering 7 questions, which are available on our website and in hard copies outside. John, thank you for moderating.
No worries. My wife comes from White Plains, but I think I'm okay. Okay, so these are the candidates for the White Plains Board of Education. There's 8 candidates running for 3 seats. I'll give you the list of candidates now because I want to make an announcement about one of them. Donna Giambalvo is unable to attend tonight because she has an unspecified family emergency. Okay, we have our candidates here. I'm going to give you the proper order. We have Kane Leticia, Rose Lovich, Ferenc, I'm going to get that wrong every time, Tesnati, Jessica Bach, Leslie Hickey, Craig Monshine, and Vincent Orlando. And that is the order that they're going to speak. Each candidate has 1.5 minutes to make an opening statement, followed by questions for the candidates, and then a 1-minute closing statement at the end. Candidates will be asked questions prepared by the League and solicited from community members. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. The order of the questions will alternate sequentially between the candidates. Each candidate has 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond to each question. During the debate, each candidate will have a single 30-second rebuttal during the forum. Rebuttals are allowed after each candidate has had a chance to answer the questions. Rebuttals may not be used during opening or closing statements. The timekeepers will hold up a warning sign when there are 30 seconds of time remaining, or the stop sign over there. I will let you finish your sentence. Okay, so keep it short. We have a lot of people, so we don't want to go too over. Questions from the community were solicited by the White Plains League in advance, and the questions were reviewed and grouped and combined into categories in the interest of efficiency and to cover as many areas as possible in the time we have allotted. Okay, let's silence our cell phones. That includes me. Hold all applause until the end of the entire forum. There'll be a time after the forum to meet and chat with your candidates. There's no video recording in here by members of the audience. The forum is being recorded here by the school district, and the entire forum will be rebroadcast on Optimum Channel 75 and Verizon Channel 47 for a full week at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Okay. Is everybody ready? Okay, it's time for our opening statement. Mr. Kane, Leticia, you begin.
Just a point of clarification, the budget and trustee vote is on May 20th.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of White Plains for hosting. I am King Letizia and I'm honored to have served 3 terms on the Board of Education and to currently be holding the position of Vice President. As a parent of 3 children in the district and a teacher for the past 26 years, I care deeply about the quality of education we provide. My commitment to ensuring our schools are a place where every student can thrive has only grown stronger over my years of service. And tonight I'll highlight a few of those areas. In regard to communication and transparency, this board has been a leader in Westchester, leveraging social media platforms to promote and share district accomplishments, to providing live streaming of monthly board meetings, and making agendas and minutes immediately available. In regard to facilities and operations, this board has witnessed rebirth in signage, turf field installations, and consistent investment in buildings so they do not fall into disrepair. In 4 short months, we'll be flipping the switch of air conditioning in every single classroom across the district. In curriculum instruction, this board is committed to regularly reviewing and evaluating programs, implementing assessments so help teachers delivering tailored instruction. Our Board of Education has taken a fiscally conservative approach with an average 5-year tax levy increase of just 1.42%. It is the lowest in Westchester County this year, all while maintaining programming and avoiding cuts. Simply put, this board is delivering for the children, the taxpayers, and the community with robust programming, transparency, and a commitment to fiscal responsibility, and we're doing all this within our legal and moral obligations to public education. I look forward to continuing this important work with your support and engaging in today's conversation.
Thank you. I'm going to make sure all the candidates speak into the microphone, maybe move the microphone a little bit closer. Okay? Thank you. Mrs. Lovich.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for hosting us tonight and to all of you for coming out to join us. I've dedicated the past 25 years to the service of children as a PTA member, as a Girl Scout leader, and 12 years as a Board of Ed member. I've run major fundraisers to support our children. I've served on the curriculum, policy, and special ed committees. As a proud child of immigrants, I'm multilingual, and I was excited to be part of the Dual Language Review Committee and the Diversity and Equity Committees. I'm very proud to be part of a Board of Ed that goes beyond our legal responsibilities. The members attend meetings, sit on committees, visit classrooms, attend concerts, retirement parties, and every single moving up and graduation ceremony in the district, and I'm already tired. Through the most difficult of circumstances, we kept our students engaged and our entire staff working through the pandemic. These one-time COVID programs to install HVAC in every building, hire a dietitian to provide breakfast and lunch for every student, include a one-time stipend to every district employee. This year, as part of our annual review of curriculum and programming, our outside consultant firm has a full review of the special ed program. Our district office will make vocational opportunities for all students, STEM project way, and pathways to engineering, among others.
Thank you. Mr. Tisnati.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Ferenc Tasnadi. I'm running for school board to form a more transparent, communicative, and accountable school board. As a board member, I pledge to be an advocate for the people of White Plains. I believe that elected officials have a responsibility to represent the will of the people and not their own personal agenda. Communication and cooperation between the teachers, parents, and administrators is vitally important in creating the best possible schools for our children. And I will be talking to as many community members as possible regarding ways to improve our schools, and will be available to speak with anyone with concerns or suggestions. In a time where our schools and budgets are being stressed, both financially and otherwise, I will ensure resources are properly allocated in the best interest of the students, district employees, and taxpayers. And I've lived in White Plains, for 15 years. I have 3 kids in the public schools, one here, one at the Highlands, and my youngest is 7 years old at Ridgeway. And I have every reason to act in the best interest of our students. Thank you.
Ms. Buck, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. I'm Jessica Buck, and I'm a 21-year resident of White Plains and an independent marketing consultant. Though I don't have a formal background in education, it's in my DNA, as my mom was a teacher for 30 years. I have a son about to be 14 next week in 8th grade at Highlands. He's an avid scholar athlete. He made honor roll throughout middle school and plays basketball, lacrosse, and cross country. Since he entered kindergarten at Ridgeway 9 years ago, I've been an active PTA leader and parent-student advocate. I was class mom and became PTA council rep for Ridgeway when I first started attending monthly board meetings. I've been chair of the Halloween Spooktacular, the book fair, the silent auction, fifth grade committee, and helped to raise over $40,000 for the PTA. More broadly, I was part of a district-wide recess committee that advocated for active and engaging indoor and outdoor recess and secured funds from the district for recess programs and games across all 5 elementary schools. I became PTA Council co-president in 2020 and president in 2021. I began meeting monthly with Dr. Ricca prior to each council meeting and built a collaborative working relationship. I've served on the district-wide reopening committee with members of the board and other stakeholders from across the district, giving me a strong voice for advocacy. As council president, I attended regional PTA meetings and built relationships with leaders outside of White Plains. In addition to being advocacy chair and representing council at regional meetings, I've been regional membership chair for the past 2 years as well. I know the hard work and dedication it takes to be a board member. I've admired the current members and their diligence in doing what's best for our students, families, teachers, and staff. I share that same dedication and passion for serving our community, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to run during this election.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hickey?
Hi, my name is Leslie Hickey. I'm proud to say that I'm my name is Leslie Hickey. I'm proud to say that I'm third generation White Plains with a family history of service to White Plains in the fire and police departments. I graduated from White Plains High School and then went on to Georgetown University, thanks to the incredible education that I got here. I graduated with a degree in accounting and got my CPA. I worked in accounting, finance, and reporting roles in various industries and now own my own firm in White Plains. My son and one nephew graduated from White Plains High School 2 years ago, and I have a nephew who's a senior. During my son's time at the high school, I served as assistant treasurer for 2 years for the PTA and then treasurer for 2 years. I also volunteered for so many fundraising concessions I thought I'd never get the smell of hot dogs out of my clothes. I have served on the PTA Council for 2 years as the Curriculum and Enrichment Liaison. I threw my hat in the ring for the Board of Ed as I believe it is just wise to introduce new views and skills to keep our thinking from getting stale. Fiscally conservative and socially centrist, I believe that my finance skills and business experience will give us new tools to build on what we need to meet our goals as the best district we can be. In my managerial roles, I displayed excellence in the ability to listen to all the facts and opinions and then work with a team to choose the course of action that meets the most important needs and provides the most benefit for the most people. I'm so happy to see that there are so many people running because it means that our community is involved. And from looking at the candidates that we have, I don't think we can go wrong.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Monshine.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the League of Women's Voters for hosting this candidate debate and all of you for taking the time to join us. My name is Craig Munshine. I have lived in White Plains for 12 years, and I have served as a community representative on the White Plains School District Finance and Audit Committee for the last 8 years. My wife Tracy and I have had 2 of our children attend White Plains schools, with our youngest graduating next month. As you will hear tonight, my platform has 4 planks. Ensuring White Plains offers the best education to every child based on their needs. Ensuring White Plains taxpayers are well represented and property taxes are fair and used efficiently to maintain strong property values. Partnering with the CSEA and White Plains Teachers Association unions to provide members with rewarding careers through fair and equitable wages. And holding the White Plains School District Administration accountable to deliver superior education to our children while being fiscally responsible. All 4 of these planks work together, and each is needed for our students, our children, to reach their full potential as a result of the education they receive at White Plains. Have no doubt, the White Plains School District has challenges on the horizon. The age of our schools is a major issue. The changing demographics of White Plains and the anticipated decrease in number of students in coming years is just 3 of them. Working together with the goal of always keeping the needs of all of our children front and center will continue to make White Plains a desirable community for families to raise their children for generations to come.
Thank you, Mr. Monshine. Mr. Orlando.
Good evening. My name is Vincent Orlando. I am a lifelong resident of White Plains, and I'm proud to say my children are the 3rd generation to be in our school district. I come from a background in education and then transitioned into the financial sector. In recent years, I have moved away from work and have been more focused on my children, their education, and being involved in their school, because I know how crucial this time is in their life. I believe our school district is a great equalizer in providing opportunities for all children. I have chosen to run because I hope to be a voice for children, educators, parents, and the taxpayers in our city. While I talk to our community at large, I hear the same thing. They love their school, they love their principals, but they are unhappy with the way the district is run, the school board, and the lack of transparency in this district. Most common phrase I've heard throughout the community is, they don't listen. My goal as a board member is to unify our community by making sure all stakeholders always have a seat at the table. This work cannot be done alone. It starts by electing 3 new board members, which will send a clear message as a community that you want your voices heard. I hope after tonight's forum you will see why I will be a great addition to the school board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The first question is from the League of Women Voters here in White Plains, and we're going to start with you, Mrs. Lovich. If you want me to repeat the question, just ask me and I'll repeat the question for anybody. New families from a broad range of backgrounds enroll in our schools every year. How can the district more systematically orient them to school and district policies, procedures, and culture?
I think our school district has an excellent program for welcoming. Thank you.
Start again. Start the clock again.
I think our school district has an excellent program for welcoming our new students into the district. Beginning in kindergarten, most of our schools already have play dates and picnics and introductory dates, days when the children can come into the school and take tours and meet the teachers as they're setting up classrooms. I'm not sure how much else we could possibly do other than to bring them in earlier, which I know no one wants to do. But I really believe that our students have the great opportunity to spend the summer getting used to the schools that they've been assigned to. Our teachers are always available, our staff is always available, and they love engaging our children in the playgrounds when they see them and in the classrooms when they come in to see the schools earlier.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Tesnati.
Yeah, I agree largely with what you just had to say. However, one of the reasons that I am running is the fact that we don't have the newcomer center that we once had, with the severe strain that being placed in almost all of our classrooms with these newcomers. I think there are much more efficient ways to get these children the right access to the right resources, and we're just not doing it as well as we could be. I've talked to a lot of teachers that I'm very good friends with. They're all very disappointed that we eliminated that newcomer center, and I can't seem to get a good explanation as to why it was eliminated. So that would be a big part of what I would be shooting to change if elected.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck.
I think the kindergarten play dates and all that are great, obviously, for when people first enter the district, but you really need to have a newcomers programming for people who enter the district after kindergarten as well. We really don't have that, and that's something that we definitely need to work on. So while there are kindergarten play dates and things like that, there should also be those same types of social interactions and events for newcomers to the district in general. I know about the Newcomer Center as well, and I know that used to be something that the district used to do. And maybe it can come back in a different form so that we can make sure that we're inclusive to all newcomers to the district, with all the different people that are coming to our city from all different parts of the world.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
So I'm going to say the same thing for the Newcomers Club. I had heard about that, and I thought it was great. Again, don't know why it was just whatever, taken apart. I think that one thing that we could do is to get parents more involved as well. My son actually came from private school for grammar school, and the first thing I did when he got here was join the PTA to make sure that I knew what was going on in the schools, that I made some connections with some parents, because then my son could make connections with their children. And I think that getting parents involved is something that the Board of Ed can push as well. The Board of Ed should be welcoming these new families, encouraging them to come to the meetings, going to these play dates and events and things like that that can get them more involved in the community and make the community feel like they're important to the board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Monshine?
Yeah, as many others have just stated before me, there are programs in place, as Rose stated, certainly at the kindergarten level. What seems to be lacking is more what the colleges do with like a transfer orientation for the older children to orientate them to the schools better, and quite frankly, a new parent orientation so that the parents can feel more part of the school district, part of their school, and part of their community. So just like the school has a clubs fair, it would be great to have an orientation for the parents where they are introduced to the various opportunities that are available for them to get involved as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando.
Basically, the last few members touched on everything perfectly. You know, we need to definitely get parents involved. I know that at my school, when new people are coming in, we make sure we do events, and I always try to reach out to new parents. Me and my wife both do that, and listening to our teachers, hearing what they believe that we need also, because they are the ones in the field, and definitely the newcomer center. That's key, and definitely, as Craig mentioned, getting parents who first come here. It's an intimidating thing to walk into, and we need to make sure we have an open door bringing them in, because making sure parents are part of the equation will help their children as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia.
Thank you. So, as many people have already stated, new families moving to White Plains probably did what my wife and I did. We researched the district and we visited the website. And if new families visited the website, you can access policy on the district, for example, code of conduct at each elementary school or middle school or high school. You could see a promotional video we produced a few years back, sending that out to anyone that was interested in attending our schools. We interviewed students, we interviewed teachers, and that video is right when you log into the webpage. You can see that promotional video for former students, teachers, and administrators. In terms of culture, the handoff really occurs after the parents do their research at the Family Information Center. And the Family Information Center places those students in elementary school or the middle school with proper placement. And at that point, the handoff is then to the school, and the school takes over from there. And with events such as picnics, family fun nights, spooktaculars, these are the types of engagements that occur at the schools monthly, and this is ongoing throughout the year that the new families can attend. But I do want to ask for a point of clarification in terms of your question is about new families to White Plains.
Broad range of backgrounds, new families enrolling in the schools every year. Okay, and you would like your rebuttal?
Yes,
okay.
please.
Go ahead.
So as the person with the longest history here, I think I can respond a little bit to the Newcomer Center question. The Newcomer Center was ended when dual language began. So when we had the ability to put our students directly into classrooms, most of our students who were of the Hispanic backgrounds were able to get directly into classrooms, meet with peers, make friends, and have teachers that were able to communicate to them in both languages.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, this next question, Mr. Chazinati, this is a community question. We'll start with you, okay? This year's proposed budget is a tax cap compliant increase of 1.06%, the lowest of any school district in Westchester County. To what extent do you think this budget supports your priorities for the White Plains schools?
Well, I'm definitely in support of, can everyone hear me okay? I'm definitely in support of the fact that it is a low increase. I think there are plenty we can do with the existing level of resources, resource allocation being, a key thing. I don't think that there's any major initiative that needs to be taken care of that would need budgeting above and beyond that, where we couldn't find some of the resources by reallocating, what's being done a little bit inefficiently now.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck?
Thank you. I agree that the budget is sufficient to cover all the needs of the current school district, programs, classes, teachers, staff, and I believe that it is reflective of all the care and the work that goes into taking care of the kids and families, and puts the kids first. It puts the kids first in terms of their learning, and that's the biggest part of the budget that we have. the learning piece is the most important piece to me, and obviously to all of us, because the board's contract is basically to educate the children and make sure that the children, our students, are achieving the full potential of their learning. I'm excited about this budget. I've witnessed many budget meetings and presentations at the Board of Education meetings, and I am proud of the board for what they've done to be able to manage a solvent budget compared to other districts surrounding us and other districts in the world.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Hickey?
So I think it's great that we have kept it low and under the budget cap and everything. However, how you spend the money is as important as whether there's an increase or a decrease. And, from my finance background, I did, budgeting for GE Capital. So I'm, well aware of how to put together a budget and how to look at it. I think that you have to delve into the details a little bit more. And I hate to bring this up, but recently we just consolidated a whole bunch of positions at, with our science and math programs and everything else. And I don't think that was something that was anticipated from looking at the budget. And I think that if I was on the board, I would probably take a much bigger look at each and every line item in it and find out if that's the best way we can spend our money. And, unfortunately, some people are going to get what they want and some people won't. And, our job is really to make sure that the most people get what is most important for the biggest population.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Monshine?
As one of two community members sitting on the Audit and Finance Committee, I'm extremely proud of this budget. 1.06% increase year over year is a truly incredible and awesome return on investment for our taxpayers and for our children. White Plains sits with a very large unallocated fund balance, of which we should be very proud, and allows us to access programming on a moment's notice, as the school district and the board did during the pandemic. Dr. Vicario Teish has done an amazing job, and it takes years of planning to be able to do a 1.06% increase when you're allowed 2%, and it's been over several years that they've done this. Regarding the science and math teachers that was brought up, the issue here is very simple: results. And if you look at the results, the reason why the board did what they've done is simply because the results were not there, and combining these positions should help our students in this area.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando?
The budget is something you have to look at how the money is being used line by line and really dive into that. That's a much bigger conversation than to be answered in a minute. Children need to be put first. And I have to disagree about that it was a good idea about eliminating those positions. That's going to be bad for our district when we're talking about science, technology, math. These are the fields of the future. And that should not have been done, especially when they're claiming that it wasn't about money. But as far as the needs of the students, as long as we're always focused on the needs of the students and making sure that we're funding the things that they need, then it's great that the budget was only increased by 1%. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tuzia?
So I'll echo a few of the statements that have been said. I'm also extremely proud of this budget. I don't know why. Hello? I know. Don't touch this over there. I'm also extremely proud of the budget. I think Dr. Ann Vaccaro-Teish did an amazing job presenting this budget to the Board of Education, and we adopted this budget last month. The process getting to last month was 11 months in the making. We had over 10 to 15 public meetings where the public was invited to come and share their thoughts on the budget. 3 people at this table, including myself, were at those meetings and providing input. But there were times throughout this entire process where we could have got into the details with the public, or anyone that came to a board meeting. We could have dug into the details and discussed different things. Those meetings were available and they were open to the public. This showing tonight is amazing, and I wish everybody would come to every board meeting, because it would be great to have all this out there. We do publicize that. But our neighboring districts are looking to seek overrides of their tax cap to go above 2%. That requires 60% of the voters in that city to approve it. We're not in that position. And if that fails, those districts look at contingency budgets. We are not in that position. We are in a position where 3 years ago we had a 0% increase. And I just want to say that one of our primary responsibilities, in addition to hiring a superintendent and curriculum, is delivering a good budget, a sound budget, a safe budget, a budget that's going to be good for the taxpayers. I think over the 4 years, I mentioned that it was over the 5-year tax levy, it was just 1.42%. Again, the lowest in the county, and I'm very proud of that. And I am very proud of the 5 budgets we passed since I've been on the board, and I look forward to the voters approving this budget.
Okay. Ms. Lovich?
Our board is very proud of the excellent business department headed by Dr. Vaccaro Teisch. Each year they present a budget that is financially responsible and sustainable, and we've managed to maintain that and remain below the tax levy cap. As I said earlier, we used American Rescue Plan funds.
Are you saying
You're
stop?
holding the stop sign.
I thought she had a glitch.
We used American Rescue Plan funds to provide major major improvements, which we knew it would be a one-time only spending. We established capital reserves, which we fund annually with taxpayer vote and approval. And that has allowed us to continue capital projects, building of new buildings, and the new building going up at the high school is an example of how we're moving into the future, preparing for the new careers which our students are excited to be part of. We have not eliminated a bunch of positions. We eliminated 2 positions so that we can coordinate the new career development education center which we are building.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a rebuttal?
You ready for your rebuttal?
I think I am.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Just quickly, in regard to the positions, a month ago we did abolish 2 positions, 2 administrative positions that were coordinators. This was conversations months in the making where the board was looking at student results, efficiencies, and how can we best, when we plan on this extension at the high school, serve the CTE, the career and technical side of that. We feel a director of CTE, science, and math would be the best way to do that. And you can see that you heard from some teachers at the board meeting. 30 seconds was quick.
Yeah,
All right,
sure
next
does.
time.
Okay.
I like to rebuttal, actually.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
When you
Orlando.
talk about those positions, you need people which specialize in those positions. You can't combine them. And when you talk about transparency, that this was months of talking, every teacher, everybody I've talked to at the district disagrees with that. It was not months of you talking about it.
Okay, thank
If
you.
I could also chime in on that.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, a common theme here for a lot of us is that we want some transparency, and then the board is, or certain people are saying that that was transparent. 10 teachers came here to state that they objected to the elimination of that policy. The board said that they would take that into consideration, and then 30 minutes later unanimously voted to do the same exact thing that they said they were going to do. So what good is transparency if you're not taking into account the feedback you're getting from the people, the teachers who are closest to the students and know what resources are needed?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's get to question number 3. And this is going to start with you, Ms. Buck. In light of book challenges and bans happening across the country, what do you see as your role as a board member in determining which books and other curriculum materials students should have access to? What would your criteria be in making these decisions?
Book bans, you said?
Book challenges and bans happening across the country.
Yeah, I believe that students should have the freedom to read the books that they want to read and access the books that they want to access. I know that there are state standards that the district follows, in the curriculum, and as well as being able to choose books and have books available for different types of students, different populations. It's important for students to be able to see themselves in their curriculum and in the books that they read and they access. And that is always going to be the most important thing for me. I think it's very important to have, these books available, and for the schools, obviously, to to follow the state standards for curriculum and books that they have in the school. I don't believe in banning books at all whatsoever.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Hickey?
So I think that we need to look a little bit at sort of the definition of book banning, because I have heard that people have been saying that I'm a big advocate of book banning, and I'm an avid reader. I can't even throw out a book, let alone, ban it. But I do believe that there are age-appropriate things in our schools. We have one of the best library systems in the country. You can have a book delivered the next day, and your parent can be there to decide whether that's something that they want you to read. I think that in the schools, we have, when you go to the movies, you have ratings, G, PG, R, and that goes with age limits. They're supposed to be appropriate for those age levels, and I do believe that we should follow things, same with video games. I do believe that we should consider that when we're deciding what to put in our libraries. That doesn't mean we ban, it just means that it should be age appropriate. And then anybody who wants to read something else with their parents' input is more than welcome to go to a library, and I don't think any library should ban anything. I do agree they have children's sections, young adult sections, and adult sections, and I think that that's kind of what we should have in the schools based on the ages of the kids that are in the school.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Monshine?
Yeah, to be very clear, I am completely against banning of any books in the school. It's up to a parent to decide what books their children should or should not be reading when they come home. It's up to the parents to encourage their children to bring the books home, discuss it with them at home, and then the parent can make a decision whether or not that book is appropriate for their child.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando?
Yeah, I have to agree with Leslie and Craig. It's first, it's age-appropriate books, right? Nothing for elementary should be anything explicit, right? And I think everybody would agree with that. And then parents obviously involvement. If a parent doesn't want their child reading a book, the parent has that right. And as kids get older, they get into middle school, the books get a little bit more detailed. I mean, the kids are now taking health. They're going to have other questions. They're going to be exposed to more books. And then in high school, they're in high school. I think we all remember when we were in high school. So it's just age appropriateness, basically.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia?
As a teacher, I absolutely love book bans. You cannot get a kid to read faster than saying you cannot read this book. It is amazing what a book ban will do to a child's interest in books. But in seriousness, this board and myself personally, I believe that books serve as a form of empathy. When students read books about other cultures, when they read books about other people, they begin to develop empathy. There's research to support this. And as a researcher, Rudine Sims Bishop said, they serve as windows, sliding doors, windows, sliding doors, and mirrors. Kids need to see themselves in the books that they're reading. Kids need to see others in the books that they're reading, and they need to be able to step through those and live the lives of other people in those books. So, while I joke that I love them for raising student interest, I will say that I think parents need to exercise. When a book comes home, read the book your child's reading. That's my first advice to a parent when they're reading a book in high school. Have you read the book? Share the experience. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Lovich.
I think by the end of the evening, you're all going to get tired of me using the word experience. I ran the PTA book fair at Post Road for 10 years. My co-chair is sitting in the room with me, and I'm sure that she will agree we never, ever banned any book from any child. The students come through the library or where we were holding the book fair. They bring home lists of books that they might want to purchase for their parents' approval. They are walked through the fair by us who were running it, by their teachers and the librarian. I know for a fact that when classes come into the library, the librarian directs the children, as do their teachers, to the proper areas where they should be choosing books. As everyone here agreed, the book should be age and developmentally appropriate for each child. And I know in my house, I never stopped my children from reading anything, especially once they got up to the high school level, where they were seeing more than I ever imagined when I was their age. My home was always open to my children to discuss any topic that they felt was important to them or that they were confused by. And I think that is the only way we're going to teach our kids, not by banning books.
Thank you very much. Okay, Miss Hickey. Recent.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I
That's
leave you
okay.
out?
So I think
Oh, yeah.
in the context of elementary schools or schools in general, just using the term book banning is disingenuous and it doesn't promote dialogue. I think everyone here would agree, or I hope, that you wouldn't want to find the Kama Sutra or Stephen King's It in Ridgeway Elementary School. And I don't think you would call anyone who opposed certain sexually explicit books not being in an elementary school library a book banner. I think it's crazy. So I think it's important to carefully curate the appropriate content for the kids of a particular age.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we're going to get to Ms. Hickey. Recent New York State Back to Basics legislation ensures that every New York classroom uses evidence-based instruction to improve reading proficiency rates. How will you evaluate whether this is being done and whether this is successful?
I think the first thing you have to find out is if kids are reading at grade level to find out if it's successful. One of the things that I'm kind of running on is I think it's time that these schools get back to basics. We keep developing these new programs and new names for them and everything else, and then they kind of go by the wayside, and we spend so much money and so much time on training and so much of the teachers' time and the parents' time. I don't know what happened to Common Core. It just seemed to have disappeared, and I actually brought that up with the curriculum person, and she was kind of like, I don't know. So I just think that it's time for us to get back to basics, and I think this new science of reading that they're calling it is basic phonics from what it sounds like. And I'm not a teacher, so if I'm wrong, somebody who's a teacher can correct me. But it sounds to me like we're going right back to what we were doing when I was a kid, and it's taken us 40-something years to get there. So my big thing is that it's time for us to get back to basics. We need to teach kids facts, because that's the only way that they're going to be able to make informed decisions in their lives, and they're going to have all kinds of things thrown at them, and they need to have the facts to be able to deal with their decisions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Monshine.
Yeah, evidence-based teaching and learning is really an excellent way, in my opinion, to go. As a parent of a child who could not learn to read phonetically and is now about to start on a PhD program, I can tell you that you need to teach children so that they can learn. You need to teach to their strengths. You need to teach so that they can comprehend, and evidence-based learning allows them to do that. Is it perfect for every child? Of course not. And that's where you individually teach children to their strengths. To come out and say there's only one way to teach children is ridiculous. I don't think any educator would agree with that. So as a board, it's where we have to put our money. As taxpayers, it's where we have to put our money so that the children are able to benefit from the way that they're being taught. It really does come down to that. How do you measure it? That's very difficult. There's no easy solution for that. The evidence will come out over years, unfortunately, as they continue to go through the school system, and we'll see, how they work themselves out. But you have to be able to measure it. Measuring it at year by year is very, very difficult to be done.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Orlando?
Can you repeat the question just one more time?
Yeah, sure. Recent New York State Back to Basics legislation ensures that every New York classroom uses evidence-based instruction to improve reading proficiency rates. How will you evaluate whether this is being done and whether this is successful?
Well, first of all, data. Teachers, obviously, they track everything that their students are doing year to year, and our schools do a great job at doing that. I'm just my own child. He's 11. He's in 5th grade, and when he first got into school, he had trouble reading. The teachers have worked with him, tracking. They call me and they say, he's got to this level. They track it. And recently, I was talking to my child's principal, and he said, this is a kid who he hated reading. Now he won't put a book down. He loves writing, and he said, your son. He said, the teacher, put a question on the board, and he wrote out this really great evidence-based, fact by fact, and that's because of our teachers. They've done a great job. So, a lot of times when these mandates come down, In White Plains, a lot of times our teachers are already doing the things that need to get done. So it's not really a big hit as far as us, trying to catch up and do these things, because our teachers are actually doing a great job educating our students.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia.
So in regard to evidence-based results and the mandate that came down from the governor's office, I'll just say that I'm not a fan of mandates from the governor, and unfunded mandates at that. For example, the school buses, the electric school bus conversion that we have to do. But this is an unfunded mandate that I understand, because New York State is a very large state, and not every district in New York State was providing these basic skills that we're talking about, which are phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency. White Plains was doing that instruction. So this is not a mandate that we now have to rush out and teach our teachers this. These are things, and I think people have spoken to this, that our teachers are doing and doing well. And they were doing it so well that they came to the Board of Education, they came to our curriculum director, and they asked for assessments that they could measure the students throughout the year. And some of those assessments that we delivered over the past 9 years have been an assessment called the DIBELS, which is used in kindergarten through first grade to assess oral reading fluency, to assess letter name fluency, nonsense word fluency, and this is administered 3 to 4 times a year. In 6 through 9, we implemented an NWEA, which is a reading comprehension assessment and math assessment, 3 times a year, so we can track that. So in terms of tracking our students' progress, we now have data we can provide the teachers to enhance their instruction and tailor their instruction directly to their students' needs. So, and with 2 reading teachers at each elementary building and 2 math coaches at each elementary building and a bilingual coach at our bilingual buildings, there is a lot of support, and I think, in a few years, we'll be seeing the fruit of all those efforts.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lovich?
I have been a very long-standing proponent of individualized learning. Our teachers use multiple methodologies in their classrooms. It's not just one way of teaching the entire classroom. They teach to each individual child. They collect data and they use multiple assessments. And I'll leave all of the acronyms to our teachers sitting to my right. But the use of electronic devices in the classrooms now gives the teachers the opportunity to walk around the classroom and on the spot, constant evaluations of what their children are doing and their progress and their areas where they need additional support. I'm very much in favor. The board has always asked for more and more data, and we will continue to do that. That is the only way to assess our students' progress.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tesnati?
Yeah, I think most people touched on this, or most of the big points. Obviously, data needs to be included, but I'll go back to my earlier statements about transparency and accountability, and I think that we should be more actively engaging with the teachers and the parents to make sure that this isn't just something that looks good on paper, that they find these metrics that, kids may score well, but that it is in practice actually helping educate the kids better.
Okay, Mrs. Buck?
So I think evidence-based teaching and learning is just one way to learn, like Rose said, but there's definitely more methods out there. My understanding is that the teachers, as Rose also said, have different tools that they can use depending on what the student needs are. And so I think that continuous study, continuous evaluation of the programs are necessary to be able to improve them, continue to evaluate them, where are the strengths and weaknesses of the different programs for the different students. And hopefully, continuous evaluation will help us understand what those students' needs are, help the teachers understand, but then the other part is actually communicating what those needs are to the parents so that the parents know what it is, what's going on with their kids and how they can help them, how they can support at home. Because even if the teacher knows, sometimes, especially when the kids get older at middle school and high school, the parents may not know what those weaknesses are because we don't have the parent-teacher conferences and stuff like that when the kids get older. So the last piece of that is to make sure that the parents know what is going on with their kids and what method is best for them.
Okay, thank you.
Can I do a rebuttal?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Just very quickly, one thing just from hearing what other people are saying. One thing that I would just caution is that we make sure that the teachers aren't spending so much time filling out paperwork and doing assessments that they are not able to teach and really work with students. And I don't know how much that's happening, but I have heard teachers, and I've seen from teachers' education, that there's so much more emphasis on paperwork and stuff, and I think they should be, able to spend as much time as they can with their students.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this one is going to be for you, Mr. Monshine. Nationally and in New York State, increased attention is being placed on vocational education. How do you think the White Plains schools are doing at balancing vocational and academic programs?
I feel very strongly that the White Plains School District is actually doing a very good job in this area. The BOCES program that is offered, the Rochambeau program that is offered, is something we should be very proud of. The goal and the methodology that the school board and the schools have to follow is to fulfill the needs of every child. Whether that child is going to end up in the high school in AP programs, double advanced math, or a child that has special needs and needs special attention, the school district has to accomplish all of these things for every student. It has to be done on an individualized basis. And the vocational programs that we offer, if any of you attended the Board of Education meeting just a few weeks, I think it was a couple of months ago when the budget was presented, BOCES did present to the board. And it's absolutely amazing what programs BOCES offers to the school district, as well, of course, our Rochambeau program, which we should be very, very proud of as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando.
Focusing on the individual needs of students is important, and definitely BOCES in our school district, I think, is doing a great job. And I would love to see this, expanded even more. There's so many more pathways for the future than just going to college. I learned this firsthand when I went into finance, and the person who mentored me had no high school diploma, and he's a multimillionaire today. And I met a lot of successful people that had no college experience whatsoever, but they studied success. And but back then it was, if you weren't going to college, that was it. So I'm proud that we're offering so many more opportunities. I would love to see that expanded and have so many more. I would like to have people that are successful in their fields come in and mentor students and do internships and things like that. I think that would be really beneficial to our students, especially at the high school level where, college is not for everybody. And helping students, helping them when they're in high school find a pathway for what they want for the future, I think is key to building a successful society.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Letizia.
So there's multiple pathways to graduation, and one of those could be the vocational pathway. And the voters recently approved an extension, about a 30,000 square foot extension on the high school, where we're going to actually house our own career and technical education building. And within that building, and all this is available from our board meetings and on slides that are readily available on our website, and even the floor, to the level of floor plans. You can see the culinary kitchen that we're going to install. You can see the garden that the kids will be growing food in to make and cook in the culinary. You'll see the little kiosk where the kids will be selling food that they're making in the Culinary Institute, trained by BOCES teachers, alongside White Plains High School teachers that will be learning the trades, and learning that, so we can eventually bring these programs to our high school here. And we do not have to rely on BOCES. I love BOCES, and they did an amazing presentation a few weeks ago, but we do pay a price per seat to use BOCES, at which we've increased the seats at BOCES year after year because of the increase in interest in those trades like HVAC, like plumbing, like car mechanics. So the need is there, and we are increasing the seats to the point we discovered, look, can we get this on site, and can we get teachers from BOCES and develop this here? So we can open up to more kids. Maybe there's a kid that just wants to take one elective in car maintenance or in culinary. They could do that while taking an AP on campus or a dual language course. So we're making these possible, and I think this extension and the BOCES collaboration, because it is a collaboration.
Okay, thank you very much. Mrs. Lovich?
White Plains has an excellent trades program. as proud as we are of our academic and programs, we are expanding focus on trades. We recently added extra seats to our BOCES enrollment, and we're committed to continue to add seats as they become requested by students. Our CTE center, which we're building, as Kane said, will combine with BOCES to give our students an even more expanded opportunity and experience in the trades. Sarah Hall recently ran a trades seminar, which was very well attended. She was interviewed by, thank you, Chris Cuomo, and she did a wonderful presentation about how many of our students are not college bound and who are interested in trades. The Engineering Expo, which was held a few weeks ago, which I started with 2 little tables in the high school, took over the entire campus. We had representatives from engineering programs, from every single arm of the military, and many other trades. We had students.
Thank you. Mr. Tesnati?
So let me say this. I am relatively new to politics, local and otherwise, and I don't have all the data on this. It sounds like everybody who's involved says it's great, but one of the first things I would do, and I want to go back to what Mr. Orlando said earlier, that we need some fresh blood here, 3 new members, is take a look and look at the data. Look at the data versus other districts, and talk to the teachers, talk to the parents of the students, and objectively reevaluate and see where we're going with this. And I definitely am supportive, generally speaking, of additional funds towards these vocational schools.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck?
So I think a big way to tell how serious anybody is, a business, a person, or whatever, about anything is to put their money where their mouth is. And I feel like the district is doing that, with supporting the new CTE programming and bringing a whole new wing to the high school to be able to support those types of students that want to pursue other things outside of going to college or going to the Army or Navy or whatever it is. So I think that they're doing a good job, and I think that it'll continue, obviously, to evolve, and I would definitely continue to support expanding that. I feel like the school also just does a good job of supporting all different kinds of students. Obviously, we have a diverse community of students with all kinds of needs and different goals, and not everybody's goal is to go to college. So to be able to support all of those different types of student needs is something that the school district continues to strive to do every day. And this is just one way, and I'm sure it will continue to evolve, and I would definitely continue to support it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hickey.
So I absolutely agree, and I think White Plains is doing a great job. As the curriculum coordinator on the PTA Council, I spoke to Dr. Hand about a lot of programs that have been rolled out in the middle school and high school level for these entrepreneurial, like Shark Tank type programs that they're doing, which I think is great, because even if you're going to own your own gardening business or something, you need to know how to run it. And so I think this is a great way for people to learn how to see like a whole thing without having to go to college if that's not for you. There are 2 things that I would look at as well, though. One is duplications in the budget. If we're paying, and I don't know a lot about this, so this is something I would have to find out more about, just my thought process. One thing is that, if we're paying for these seats at BOCES, and then we're putting in all this stuff at the high school, are we duplicating things, or is there a way that we can sort of find how to sort of synchronize them? And the other thing I would say is, while we're doing that, we cannot lose focus on the high achievers who are going to go to college. We have loosened up a lot of our qualifications to get into certain classes and stuff like that. And I think that we just have to make sure that we maintain everything for every student. It seems to me that we're losing a lot of people at private school because the higher achievers are not being served anymore.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to start here with you, Mr. Orlando. How should the board address the increased development in White Plains and its possible impact on the school district?
Yeah, this is
I'm going to read that again. And I'm not going to say New Rochelle.
no.
How
This,
should the board address the increased development in White Plains and its possible impact on the school district?
it's definitely. I don't care what anybody says. It's going to have an impact on our school district when you're building the way that we're building, and unfortunately, that comes down to who you elect running your city. And it is going to impact our school district. So we need to make sure that we are continuing to meet the needs of all students as they come into this district. That's what we can do, right? We can't control what White Plains Mayor and City Council are doing unless we start voting for new people there. But as far as the school, we have to make sure that, you know, I know they're saying that our numbers are going to go down. I don't agree with that. I think there's data showing that there's conflicting data on that our numbers are going to drop. It's definitely going to be increasing. So that being said, we have to look at the space we have in our schools right now. We have to look at each school individually and see where their numbers are, and then assess as new kids are coming in what we might need to do in the future. Whether, you know, if we have to expand or make temporary changes or whatever, we're just going to have to take it as it comes in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia.
Would you repeat the question?
Yeah. How should the board address the increased development in White Plains and its possible impact on the school district?
So there's no doubt development is occurring in White Plains if you travel down any road. I think you need a seat at the table, and I think the White Plains Board of Education has a seat at the table. We are collaborative with the city. We meet with them throughout the year, and we do look at the population. And then when a new building does go up or is being proposed to go up, there are population analysis done to that. How many bedrooms are there? How many people would be near? Number of children per unit. So that is all done through the district, people that we hire as board members through the district to work collaboratively with the city. I will mention that our class size in White Plains is an average class size of 19, which is incredibly low. This is the elementary schools across Westchester County. As the high school you get up, there's other electives that are more popular. The class sizes fluctuates at the high school, but 19 is really a magic number. And as a teacher, 19 is an absolutely incredible number in terms of instruction. But with development, you just have to be at the table. And we know globally we're seeing a national decline in birth. We know nationally we're seeing a decline in birth rates. And we know locally we're seeing that. And we plan for that. Last year, I think we said that there would be about 450 incoming kindergartners. That number was off by about 70. So our numbers are close each year. This year, I think we're looking at about 415 kindergartners enrolling in September. But we just have to have clear communication with the city and open and clear communication. And they need to understand that development does impact the school, which they do, and they need to be listening to us as we listen to them.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lovich.
We can't argue the amount of development that is going on in White Plains, and of course I'm not a fan of it, and I work downtown, so it does hinder on a lot of the small businesses down on Mamaroneck Avenue. I was the liaison, the Board of Ed liaison to the Parks Department, and I attended quite a few of the city strategic planning meetings where everyone had the opportunity to attend. They were open meetings. Everyone had the opportunity to hear what the city was planning and to make suggestions for what they thought they needed or our city needed. Respectfully, we don't use fake data, okay? We use birth records, and we have 5 to 10 year forecasts to show that our enrollment is declining. We keep an eye on the number of seats that our schools need each year. We reconfigure classrooms, we reconfigure grade levels, and we reconfigure schools to meet the needs of the incoming kindergarten class, as well as the anticipated number of students that we believe are going to join us mid-year. So I think that we have a pretty good eye on what's going on. As Kane said, we are involved with the city.
Thank you. Mr. Tasnadi?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are using what was good data, but if you look at just the last couple of years, the sheer volume of new buildings, the sheer volume of newcomers, I would imagine that the growth rates are going to be higher than we had anticipated. In terms of what we can do, I mean, a seat at the table with the city, what is it doing for us? Is it the same way that the teachers had a seat at the table before those two positions were consolidated?
Mm-hmm.
They're still building the buildings, they're giving the tax abatements, so we're absorbing the students and not getting the increased tax revenue. So, I mean, I think part of it would have to come down to activism, to alerting parents, teachers, everyone of the potential issues that we're going to experience in these schools when we continue to put more students in them without additional dollars.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck.
So as Kane mentioned, the district does work closely with the city to monitor the buildings and the development. They will continue to do that. Obviously, we need to understand the capacity of who is living in the buildings. Are they going to be people with young families, or are they going to be, single, couples or single people that don't have children? It really depends on who's actually going to, fill these buildings. We don't know yet because they're all under new construction, and who knows what the capacity of those buildings are going to be yet. The district does long-range planning with everything that it does at this point. All the planning that it does short and long-range planning, and it has managed through, obviously, so many different kinds of tough situations like COVID. You prepared for these things, and this would just be something else that they would be prepared to do. They're not ignoring it. It's not being ignored. They do have a seat at the table. Not having a seat at the table is a bigger problem than actually being able to be there and have a conversation. So, I think they're in a good position to be able to anticipate this and be on top of what is going on and what is happening in the community so that we can make sure that our classroom sizes are maintained. The teachers that we have here the teachers, students, and staff are not being overwhelmed, and that our schools' qualities remain the same.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
So I would say that we're not using fake data, but I think that it needs to be updated even more quickly than it used to be. I think that, since COVID, a lot of people have moved out of the city. They're used to apartment living, and, people have no problem having 2 or 3 kids in a bedroom because that's how it is in New York City. And so when they come here, they're going to have the same thing. We can't assume that because it's a 2-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom apartment that there's only going to be a couple and 1 child in there. So that's one thing. And the other thing, too, that we have to look at and take into consideration when we have the seat at the table is the students that are coming in. They're going to have different needs. If you're talking, we have a lot of people who are coming in who are not English-speaking people, and we're going to have different resources for them, and they're going to have different types of learning. And we have to make sure that we have the resources for that. And if we don't, then we have to push back on the building that we're doing. So I just think that it's something that we need to make sure that our data is current and that we're taking into consideration the change in the times. Data, to me, is always like 2 years behind, and that we're going to be able to provide the services that these new incomers are going to need.
Okay, Mr. Monchan?
When it comes to the development of White Plains and the effect on the school district is very collaborative with the city of White Plains, as Kane and Rose said earlier. Sitting on the finance committee as a community member, I can tell you the data that we have every year, the demographics are put up in the slide deck, the same one that's presented at the Board of Education meeting, and I question it every single year. I said, how can that be? How can the numbers be going down with all the development that's going on? That is, I can tell you, the best information the city has, the best information the school district has. It is up to date. The ability to reconfigure schools, reconfigure classes, is there because of our 1.06% tax increase. It allows us, if we need to go up to the 2% cap. Nobody wants to do that, but it's room to grow if we need to, and the taxpayers approve it. As far as the builders having a tax abatement, there's pilots, so the school district does receive taxes. It's payment in lieu of taxes. So the developer's not paying their taxes. It comes into the school district from the municipality and municipality programs that are sponsoring it. The long-term planning committee, of which I was very proudly to be a member, has looked at all of this, has looked at where are the schools. The schools need development, as I started when I said at the beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Monchan. Okay, now it's going to start with you, Ms. Letizia. What should the district do to address hate symbols or speech in our schools or on school property? And are you satisfied with the current policies?
So it's a sad testament to the times that this is even a question at a board meeting, that our kids are engaging in this type of behavior. And unfortunately, we are not unique in White Plains to have had these incidents happen. They've happened all across Westchester, and they've happened all across the country. What's different is how we handle these situations here in our house. When they do occur, the district's policy and the board's policy is a zero tolerance policy. We do not support hate speech in this town, in this city. In the event that something does happen, if it's hate speech or it's a symbol, it's found in the bathroom, on a desk, if it's heard in the hallway, if someone says it, the first line of defense is the teacher who observes that, if there is a teacher that observes it. A lot of times, it's not a teacher that observes it. These types of hate speech are often occurring on social media these days, and the ripple effect hits the classroom or hits the school. And we are running interference between what happened online with what happened at home and not in school. But in the event that it does happen in school, we have a zero tolerance policy. The teachers will report it. It will get sent to the principal. The principal will evaluate it and bring the student in and do an investigation. If it warrants, it goes up to the superintendent for a superintendent's hearing, where the superintendent would deem it a suspension or a restorative justice. So in that case, maybe the child really needs to meet with the community that the hate symbol was targeting and has a conversation with that community or some leaders of that community and sit down. Because sitting 5 days at home is not often the best solution for a child who's exhibiting these behaviors.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Levitch.
I'm very happy with our policy, zero tolerance. I can't really add too much to what Kane said. If a student is caught using hate symbols or hate speech, there is a level, there are levels of different people that the child must report to or answer to. The parents will always be brought in, and if necessary, they will be brought before the superintendent for a superintendent's hearing. And again, there will be no tolerance. The Board of Ed did a lot of talking about the use of removing students from the school as punishment, and we're trying very hard not to use suspensions where we feel that the student can remain in the school and other methods can be used where they're not losing time. I think this is all a question of education, and I think that one of the best programs was our Circles program, where the Holocaust Museum was brought to the high school and was attended by the entire community. It's all about education and teaching our kids that this will not be tolerated.
Thank you. Mr. Tesnati.
Zero tolerance for hate speech, of course. I do think we have to be careful with what is defined as hate speech, right? You're seeing people who simply speak truth in times, where they're defining it as hate speech. I don't like it. I'm a free speech absolutionist. However, just like with the book situation in the libraries, this is a school, this is not society as a whole. So zero tolerance for hate speech, but you do have to be very careful in what is defined as such, because the borders seem to be ever expanding, and sometimes for saying things you could read out of a biology textbook, you would be that would be deemed hate speech. So.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck?
Well, I think if it impacts somebody negatively, then it's hate speech, because that's how it impacted that person. So, obviously there's specific definitions and legal definitions and all that kind of stuff of hate speech, but if it's impacting a student or a person or a teacher, any staff, faculty, it's something that needs to be addressed. So it would need to be addressed right away, and, obviously stopping the activity, whatever it is, taking down the signs, making it clear that it's not supported, it won't be supported, it won't be tolerated, and maybe providing support for the students impacted by the speech to try or whatever was said, to try and address the root cause of it and to generate, more understanding between the two students, the person impacted and the person who made the hate-filled comment or sign or whatever. But I definitely think it's something that obviously is a plague to our society right now, but it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be, something done as soon as it happens. Definitely address it right away.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
So I'm going to take it from another perspective. Zero tolerance is great, agree with that and everything else, but I think that what we need to do is start addressing the root cause of this hate speech. And I think that, DEI has been great. I firmly believe in it, but I'm not sure that we've been doing it right. I think we keep pointing out to children how different how different people are different from each other, and so they should be treated differently. And any kid is going to be scared of that, because what if they do it wrong? And so the easiest thing to do is just don't deal with them. And so now we've separated everybody. I think that we need to look at starting to bring people together and showing how they're the same rather than how they're different. There was an article in the newspaper recently about a group of kids from a yeshiva and a group of kids from a Catholic school that were brought together to talk about their religions. And they found out that hiding Easter eggs is very similar to hiding the matzah. And all of a sudden they realized that so many of their customs are the same, and that their faith in God or a deity or whatever brought them together as well. When my nephew when he went to the Highlands and he ran for student council president, his speech started out, who here is from Ridgeway? Yeah. Who here is from Post Road? Yeah. And then finally he said, okay, great. Now we're all at Highlands. And it was like, yeah. And that's what we need to do. And that's the way you're going to eliminate hate speech. And if people are still going to do it, then yes, we need a zero tolerance policy. And I do believe that suspension in some cases can be the best thing.
Okay, Mr. Monshine?
Yeah, Dr. Ricca has been very clear that our schools must be a safe place, period, for our students, our staff, our faculty, visitors, everybody that walks in here. This must be a safe place, period. Zero tolerance for hate speech is a must. At the ages that our students are, there's an opportunity to teach and an opportunity to learn. That cannot be missed. Because if we don't do it by the time they graduate from high school, you're going to lose them. As a parent of a college student who literally had her picture on an Instagram page and said, "Die Jew," I can tell you it hurts. And if we don't get them here at this level, we're not going to get them for the rest of their lives. So we have to go through the process. If something is found in the school, as Kane said, it goes up through the administration in the school. If it warrants going to the centralized administration in the superintendent's office, that's where it needs to go. Suspending children for the sake of suspending children, they're kids, I do not actually agree with. I think we need to take the opportunity to teach them why it's wrong, but it has to be an effective way of teaching them.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando?
Obviously, there's zero tolerance for hate. It's really sad, all the things we see going on right now. Even bad behavior, though, is a form of communication, and we need to find out, when the child does something like that, what's going on. Having that conversation. I think everybody has touched on that. Helping the child see what is wrong. Somebody also mentioned where they brought groups together, which I think is important. One of the beautiful things about White Plains, growing up here, coming to school here, is we all come from so many different backgrounds, religions. We all got, we all got along with each other. We all went to the same parties. We all hung out at each other's house. And there was this beauty about living in White Plains where we all kind of learned from each other's cultures. And I think that's one of the things that makes our community great. So obviously when there are issues, and it does happen, unfortunately, it's rare in White Plains, but when it does happen, we need to obviously address it right away. We can't tolerate it, and make sure the child reaching out, what's going on at home, what's going on with the child is important too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're
Excuse
going
me?
to, yeah.
I did have just a comment.
Would you like your rebuttal?
Just a comment. I just wanted
Okay.
to say, that diversity is really about finding commonalities among people, not necessarily highlighting the differences, but celebrating the differences of all those people. So, when you talk about DEI and things like that, that's really what it's about. It's about bringing people together, not about separating them. So I just wanted to say.
Okay, and Mr. Monshine, you want to use your rebuttal?
I would like to add on to that. Celebrating the diversity that we have in White Plains is how we need to handle hate speech and intolerance. We have students and families from many, many different backgrounds, and to be able to capitalize on it and use that to our advantage and teach students and parents alike that we all are more similar than you can ever imagine. And we have it here, and we have the opportunity to do that.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to start with you, Ms. Lovich. How would you use your role on the board to make it easier for parents of students with special needs to understand their rights and actively participate in making decisions about their child's education?
I've been on the special ed committee for a number of years. Again, transparency and access. Our special ed assistant superintendent holds coffee talks. Her door is always open to parents. I've attended these outside meetings where parents come together and share their experiences about their children. My role on the board is to facilitate, I think, the sharing of common experiences, to invite parents to come together as often as possible, to attend the many, many sessions that are offered for them to learn. Open houses, just as we have open house for gen ed, we have open houses for special ed. We have lots of opportunities for our parents to come and not only speak to their children's teachers, their teams, but the special ed department, and just to come and access information. I also wanted to add, in addition to special ed, our website has a plethora of information which is available about
Thank you.
any questions.
Ms.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, sure. How would you use your role on the board to make it easier for parents of students with special needs to understand their rights and actively participate in making decisions about their child's education?
So one of the things that I'll do generally as a board member, I've created an Instagram page. It's Tasnadi, the number 4, WP School Board. I'm going to just actively encourage parents, teachers, the community in general to reach out to me with problems and concerns. I don't have special needs children, so I'm not super well versed in this, but I've recently spoke to several parents who feel that they're not getting adequate resources. There are some issues where the number of special needs students in a particular class is reaching like a kind of above the threshold that's productive. And so that's just one of the things that I've learned in the past couple of weeks. The way that I would address most issues facing our students, our schools, is to be active with the community and actively seek their advice and make it public, make different parents aware of the resources that are available, and just be more of a making decisions and collaboratively handling these types of things, because the feedback that I'm getting is that the special needs community needs more from us.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Buck.
Yes, I've also heard lots about the special ed. It's definitely an opportunity for improvement, obviously with everything, but specifically with special ed, as I've spoken to teachers and parents as well. There are issues that need to definitely be addressed. We need to give these students obviously what they want, but when we can't give them what they want, what they need, not what they want, what they need, when we can't give them what they need here, we need to be able to send them where they can get the services that they need if we can't, if the district can't support that. So it's great to be able to bring children in, to be able to learn with other children, and to be able to be within the school district. But if we don't have those services, we don't have the staff to be able to support that, we should also be considerate to make sure that those students get what they need outside of the district if that's what's required. There are things that are happening, like teachers potentially getting hurt because we don't have the staff to be able to support students of higher need that our current teachers may not be able to service. And that's where I get worried, because I'm worried about the students being impacted by that and the teachers and staff that are getting impacted by that. So definitely that's something definitely to be addressed and that we need to do a better job at.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
What she said. Um, so yeah, no, I agree. I think that the parents need to be involved because from what I've heard, there have been a lot of kids who are not in the school the classroom level getting the attention that they need. And again, it comes back to the budget. And you can have a budget that is under the 2% and everything else, but if it doesn't have the resources allocated correctly, then it doesn't matter whether it's over 2% or whether there's no increase. So I would just say that that's an opportunity where we could scrub through, and look at where we can cut back on things. I mean, might be stupid, but the new signs that we put in front of all the schools, I don't know how much they cost, but I can imagine that we probably would have gotten some more aid for some of the kids with special needs if we hadn't put them up. So just things like that is what I would say, and what she said.
Thank you. Mr. Monshine?
Just a week or so ago, I actually attended the special ed coffee house that Mrs. R. Gartner, our assistant superintendent of special ed, puts on. And it was the coffee house where they were talking about transition from the middle school to the high school. Listening to the programs and the dedicated resources that they have for our students that have learning needs is really incredible. From dedicated IEP teachers to having the teams approach, to having dedicated guidance counselors that are with them throughout their high school career. The program that they've put in place very simply is cantilevered so that as they start in the elementary school, work through the middle school and get to the high school, the number of services or the number of professionals that they're touching decreases. And that is by design. They have the most down at the elementary school where they need more touch points. One of the goals clearly of our special ed program is that when they do graduate from high school, that they're able to be more self-sufficient. So we have to move them in that direction, which is why they've cantilevered the program as they get older.
Okay. Mr. Orlando?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
How would you use your role on the board to make it easier for parents of students with special needs to understand their rights and actively participate in making decisions about their child's education?
Making sure they have access is very important. Proper placement for students is also important, and I hear from a lot of teachers that there are some problems in our district with this. Advocates too. If you have a child with special needs, you should definitely have an advocate that will help speak for you and be there for you for meetings. And I think our district should really be expanding on TCIS training, therapeutic crisis instruction for schools. This is, I think, very important, not just for our special ed, but for all the schools, for all the staff to be properly trained in setting up safe environments, teaching staff how to de-escalate situations, to work with all students. I think it would be really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Mr. Leticia.
So, in regard to how we can make it easier for parents with special needs to understand the system, initially, when they do meet with the Family Information Center and they're referred back to the Special Education Department, information is power, and parents need to have that information at their fingertips. They need to understand our teachers have gone to school for special education. They have chosen this career to work with special education students. They have been provided programs that are effective with our special education students, and the parents just need to feel confidence in the program, which we have built a very successful and robust program. Just for example, we this year had 50 students come into the special education program, and we were able to absorb those students with IEPs into our existing classrooms and getting them the right supports into the right classrooms. To the comment that was made about teachers, I think someone made a reference to teachers being hurt or injured, that no teacher should feel unsafe in their classroom and no students should feel unsafe in their classroom. The law says we need to provide a fair and appropriate education for all students, and especially students with disabilities as part of the IDEA. And part of that is giving those students a classroom where they are safe in a least restrictive environment. And if we find that a student is not functioning in that least restrictive environment to their needs, then perhaps conversations need to happen where that student, we find an out-of-district placement for that student. But there is no mandate that every child needs to be brought back into White Plains. We need to find the right placement for the students, and part of that is conversation with the teachers, with the administrators, and with our special education department.
Okay, very good. Okay, so this question is going to start with you, Mr. Tesnati. Pick one controversial decision the board has made in the past year and explain your position on the issue.
Well, you could probably guess. The decision to consolidate / eliminate those positions. And more than anything, because it smacks in the face like of just not listening when 10 teachers come here and explain how detrimental that decision will be, and the board then says, we're going to take that under consideration, and moments later decides to vote on it. To my knowledge, they didn't go in the back room and speak about it, so they just went and made that same decision. Even if you were going to make the same decision, table it. Do it at the next board meeting. Make the teachers feel like you're at least pretending to listen to them.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck?
I mean, I don't know that there's been any other controversial decisions that the board has made in the recent months outside of what happened with the teachers, with the coordinators, I should say. I know that it was a surprise it seemed like a surprise to the community, but as I understand it, the situation was a specific situation with HR issues that couldn't be discussed with people outside of the people that were being impacted until obviously they were made aware of it. It did look like the board was not listening to the teachers that came. They, as far as I understand, had an opportunity to speak with the board before that, and they did have a conversation. But again, there were things that couldn't be revealed and couldn't be discussed because of HR issues and how it's going to impact people. So I trust that the board is making a decision that is for the benefit of the children. I would like to understand more about what those benefits would be and how they came to the decision about eliminating the two positions. Like, was there data that indicated that we needed to eliminate the positions, and more information on how that's going to impact the new position, the supervisory position, and how parents will have access to that person.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Hickey?
What he said and what she said.
No.
So I think that obviously that was one of the big controversial things. The other thing that I would say is also to address what's been said before about people not going to the board meetings. I think that people are getting the feeling like, why bother? Because you go and you speak and you make your points and everything else, and nobody from the board is allowed to respond. So you feel like you're talking to nobody, and then things happen and you have no idea like where they came from. So I was trying to get through this entire thing without saying transparency, but we need more transparency. And I think that that's going to be more up to the board and up to the parents to start, holding our feet to the fire, That's all I got to say about that.
Mr. Ronshine?
The Board of Education, you may not believe it from the comments that everybody's making, but has done more than talk about two positions in our school district over the last year or so. I'm immensely proud that the school district has offered free breakfast and lunch to every student. We had students come to the Board of Education meetings and tell us that they were not eating because the food was not free, or worse, that they were stigmatized in the cafeteria when they were receiving a free lunch and somebody else wasn't. They were immediately identified as a student of need. So the Board of Education was able to offer now free lunch and breakfast to every student, so that stigma is no longer carried by those that have less ability to pay for it. The other thing that the Board of Education has done is stop charging for busing for the high school. That we had students come to the Board of Education meeting where they were literally telling the board that they had to make a choice between taking the bus to school and eating that day. That's not a choice these students should make under any circumstance. And the school board took the position that both should be free, the food and the busing. We need to get our kids here. We need to get our kids in school fed so that they can learn.
If I could, I'll call it a rebuttal.
No, we don't have any more. You don't have any more rebuttals left. Sorry. Mr. Orlando?
Yeah, I hate to use the word again, transparency, but There's no way around it. I want a board that I feel is more transparent, that actually listens to everybody. It's teachers, it's parents, it's stakeholders. I mean, the common theme, I said in my opening statement, when I hear from people, what's the point of going to these meetings? They don't listen. They made their decisions. And then you see April's board meeting, and they blatantly, punch those teachers in the gut, basically. Those teachers got up, they spoke from their hearts, and then they acted like they were actually going to care and listen, and then they just voted anyway. And that's the kind of board we have right now. And it's really disappointing that that's the way that they are. And also, I believe in, the thing was in the March board meeting where, we had a parent come up and talk about her child, special needs, is getting assaulted in the classroom. And I've heard from teachers who are getting hit and assaulted. And there's a stack thick of all these things going on in our school that our board is not transparent about. And it's really sad. And, when you have teachers getting assaulted, you have other students getting assaulted, you're going to lead to lawsuits eventually. That's going to cost us money. And that's failure of leadership at the top, plain and simple, and failure of policy by this current board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia?
The question is...
Pick
decision
one
that I made
controversial
that I
decision
don't agree
the
with.
board has made in the past year and explain your position on the issue.
Well, since I'll take March's decision, we make many decisions over the course of a day, over the course of a month, in collaboration with the district. And we don't take any of the decisions that we make lightly. We look at everything, every angle of the decision possible. And in the situation that occurred last month, where we did hear from some teachers from the teachers bargaining unit regarding 2 administrative positions that were abolished, and that same board meeting where we created the position of the director of science, math, and CTE. I cannot speak legally to some of, because of the legal aspect of it, to certain specific positions. But what I can say is that this board is committed to students and to student achievement and to giving our students the best tools they have to be successful. And we felt over the course of different conversations that restructuring the hierarchy of this district, where we have a superintendent who oversees assistant superintendents, who then oversees directors, who then can oversee the classrooms, and looking at options like department heads, where teachers can have someone to go to within the department. We're looking at being innovative. We're looking at all the possible ways that White Plains can be on the cutting edge, and the White Plains can provide the best instruction and education for our students. And I understand the optics, and I understand people's feelings, and I understand it could look like we weren't being transparent, but I can guarantee you that the bargaining units that were involved in that decision were aware of it prior to that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Levitch?
I think that anyone who's running for the board needs to understand that we don't just show up for a meeting. We spend uncountable number of hours every week, every month, discussing, researching, debating, and preparing for meetings. I think it's very disheartening to believe that we would show up and just rubber stamp any agenda item that was placed under our nose that night without having spent hours, sometimes weeks and months discussing it. We also need to keep in mind transparency does not equal divulging a person's privacy. With respect to the teachers in the room, I don't think anyone would want their positions, their jobs, being discussed, being announced publicly, and put up for general community consensus before they were advised or their union was advised. And the people whose positions were abolished were spoken to before it was announced to the public. In addition, the administration has already had continuing conversations with the math and science departments and assured them that the administration and the Board of Ed would continue our support of every single teacher, no matter how the positions were reconfigured.
Okay, thank you. So, with the time we have left, I have 2 questions, but I'm going to combine them, and then we'll go to closing statements. And the 2 questions are, what is your position on term limits for board members? And then what would you like to achieve in your term as a member of the White Plains School Board? Okay? And we're going to start on that question with you, Ms. Buck. So your term limits and what do you want to achieve?
Oh, okay. I believe that there could potentially be term limits for board members, but that would also take away the consistency of having a board who works well together. And if things are going well, then why mess with that system? If things are not going well, you always have an election, the next election, to be able to look to be able to make your vote heard. The thing about the election too is like nobody comes out to vote. It's like 1,000 people that come out to vote. So we should have a bigger turnout for our elections if people really do care. Don't only just care when something's wrong or you feel something's wrong, but come out every time that there's an opportunity to vote, because then your voice will be heard.
What would you like to achieve as a member of the board?
Okay. Well, one of the big things I would like to achieve, everybody's talking about transparency, is just about communication. So communication with the community, communication with the board, communication with parents, teachers, students, staff. We need more communication to be able to, understand what's going on in the district. Yes, I feel like the board is transparent in terms of the information is there for you to look for, to get. You can go to the meetings, all that kind of stuff. But we need more communication among the students, teachers, staff, between the board and the community. We need more communication about what is going on. So things go on at the Board of Education, but we need to know what the results are, and we need communication to the entire community about that, not just
Thank you.
Sorry,
That's
not
okay.
just at the board level or in the board docs where it's buried. We need
Thank you.
we need more information.
Mrs. Hickey.
So I'm a big proponent of term limits, but that being said, it doesn't have to be a year. It doesn't have to be 3 years. It could be 4 terms, which could be 12 years. So, but I think at some point that you run into the point where you're getting stale, and people they may work well together, but they're only working within a group that has had the same ideas for a period of time. So I'm a big fan of term limits. As far as what I would like to do with the school board, I have to say, I'm learning tonight what I don't know. I think that the thing that I can contribute most to the school board is financial and looking at the budgets and stuff. I think that's where my expertise is going to be. Putting in more of a business perspective on things, because a district is a business. We have our taxpayers as our shareholders, and we have our customers as our students and parents, and we have our employees through the entire school, custodial, teachers, lunch service, everything else. So I think that that's what I can help with, is sort of just bringing a different viewpoint to the board.
Mr. Monshon.
First, I am not in favor of artificial term limits. The voters have an opportunity every year, if they so choose, to not vote for the incumbent. Secondly, as far as a goal, as I wrote in the response for the League of Women Voters, is to very simply make the school district better for the students than when I started on the board. Now, having said that, I would also want the community to understand the untold hours, and as both Rose and Kane alluded to, as sitting on the Finance Committee, I can tell you, decisions are not made simply when they come to a meeting. There's tremendous amount of input that comes into every single decision that the board makes, every decision that the subcommittees make, and for the community to not understand that needs to be fixed. Transparency does not mean listening to people at a board meeting and then all of a sudden deciding to change your mind on the spot. That's not transparency. Transparency is letting the community understand what the issues are to the extent that they can be shared by law, quite frankly, and then let the community understand how the decisions came to it, and that can be done in a community forum that the board can hold.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orlando?
I think 3 to 4 terms is plenty. At that point, you need new blood, new ideas, new people coming in. This is not a lifelong job. No, we should be here for as long as some of these people have been here for. Period. As far as what I like to do is, if I got on the board, the first thing I'd want to do is I'd want to spend time at each school and meet with all the staff, principals, teachers, security, the custodial staff, find out what's going on in each school, find out what their needs are, find out how the problems, what's working, what's not working, hear from them. They're the ones in the field. I've gone to many schools in the district. I know a lot of people at district, and I asked them, when was the last time a board member came in here and asked you anything? They laughed. They said they don't come around. They come around here to get their picture taken. That's what they do. And, I love when people talk about how transparency and things are done behind the scenes. That's nonsense. I know people in a lot of different schools, and their board members are constantly in their schools. They're communicating with the staff. Here, no, that doesn't happen, and it's really disappointing. That's why we needed a completely new board. Each election, it's time to put new people on this board, period.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Letizia?
I guess I'll just begin by saying I'm upset I've missed the photo opportunities at the schools because I teach all day at a different district, and I dedicate my time after my day job, spending it all day in the classroom, for the students and the parents and the community of White Plains. And I'm absolutely committed to that. And to insinuate that we do this for photo ops is insane, quite frankly, and insulting, to be honest.
Well, that's how they see it, and that's what you do.
And a little unbecoming of someone running for the school board, I'll be honest with you. In terms of term limits, I feel we are elected, in our case, every 3 years, and the voters have an opportunity to listen to everyone at these candidate forums and make their own decision, and I believe that's fair enough. But again, like the students when they came asking for busing for the high school or for free lunch or for anything else that the recess monitors, people come to board meetings. They voice their desires. We come back and we discuss if it's feasible with the superintendent, and we make that happen. So if term limits is something that this community wants, then they should come to a board meeting and request that, and that may be something a board could make happen. In regard to what I'd like to achieve, similar to what Craig said, just that we've left this district in a better situation and a better position financially, educationally for our students and for our future students. I plan to be here for a long time in the city of White Plains, and I know that a solid public school within a city is the cornerstone of that city.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lovich?
I've heard a lot about term limits and whether or not a board member should have children in the school district. And I agree with Kane. It's really insulting to have people come in and think that we're here for our own publicity. We're here because we're passionate about working with children. I don't have kids in the school district, and yet I continue to do this because I think it's important. I was a child whose parents were immigrants who could not support me as many of the children are in this district. And I had to work and struggle for myself. And as an attorney, I feel that it's my place to be an advocate for the children in this district. Term limits, bring them on. We've said for years, I'd be willing to step back tomorrow if I felt that there were candidates who were qualified and who were willing to put in the time and the effort that's required to do this job. There's not a single day that any of us go home that don't have hours of reading, answering emails, and keeping up with everything that goes on in this district on a daily basis. What I'd want to say that I've achieved, I'd like to see us continuing our revolving reviews of programs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tisnati.
I will start by saying I'm 100% in favor of term limits and will right here and now commit to serving no more than 2 terms. I think that you do need some new blood. I also do want to say, in fairness to the board members who have served and put in countless hours, it may sound like we're being hard on you. I think we do all understand that if we're in this position 3 years from now, the community will have plenty to complain about us as well, and it's easy to take shots at you guys when we haven't done it. But in terms of what would I like to do, what would my achievements, number one, I'm a little bit of a pot stirrer, right? So I would like to make public a lot of things that people don't know about. Like right now, I'm going to tell you that there are 20 18-year-old freshmen in this high school. I don't think that's appropriate. I want to take things like this and get the news out to the community to get people actively engaged. That number 20 I got from Dr. Ricca on Monday, just so you know. 18-year-old freshman. So then there'll be a sophomore at 19. I don't know when they age out, but I think that's inappropriate. So I want to bring issues like this to the forefront, get community engagement, listen to the community, and have a more cohesive, like a community where people feel that they're heard, and to do the end result of that, not just to be more communicative, but to improve the schools and the educational outcomes for the students.
Okay, thank you. We're ready. That's those are the last questions. We're ready for our closing statements. We're going in the opposite order that we did our opening statements. So that's going to start with you, Mr. Orlando. You have 1 minute for your closing statements.
Thank you. I had a speech ready, but I'm just going to speak. I'm lucky enough that I had some great people in my life that taught me a lot. My father was an immigrant from Italy who came here as a child and taught me the value of hard work, being up front, and getting a good education. And then I was lucky enough that my grandfather was mayor of White Plains, Alfred DeVecchio, and he taught me about the value of bringing everybody, all stakeholders to the table when you make decisions. You bring your facts, your data, you fight it out, and then you do what's best for the community, for everybody. And lastly, I was lucky enough later on in life, when I thought I was going to have a pathway in education, meeting some entrepreneurs who brought me under their wing and taught me about finance, money, leadership, how to work with people, how to talk to people, how to deal with things. And I believe that as a board member, we have to always focus on the needs of the children, what's best for them. So we may not always agree, but if we always agree that what's best for the children, we move forward with that always.
Thank you very much. Mr. Monchan.
The needs of our children are first and foremost and have to be the center of everything that we do in this district. The amount of time required to be an effective board member is enormous. I have purposely waited until my youngest, or our youngest, is graduating from high school so that we are empty nesters, so I actually have the time to dedicate to the school board, to the community. The school board, the committees meet with staff regularly. The implication that the board does not meet regularly with school principals, assistant superintendents, directors, down to our staff members is just not true. Regarding whether we should have 18-year-olds in school, a lot of that is required by state law. I mean, it's just that simple. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hickey.
So I don't really have anything prepared either. I would say that I hope that we're not giving you guys a raw deal. I do believe that it's going to take a lot of effort and stuff, and especially if I was a new board member, there's going to be a lot of catch up that I have to do because some people have been on the board for so long. So it's going to be a big learning curve. One of the nice parts about tonight was that I heard a lot of things that I either didn't know about or hadn't really thought about. And so to me, this was fantastic to get an idea of what would be expected of me. I think that's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buck?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say, too, that there's definitely more good than bad. There's so much that the board has accomplished, and I don't want that to get lost in just one decision that maybe the community didn't agree with. I also wanted to say thanks for organizing the forum for us. I hope we were able to get I don't know if you were able to get a good sense of the hard worker that I am. I bring the same level of energy, effort, and output to everything I do, and serving on the board would be no different. I'm looking forward to bringing a new perspective and know the combination of my volunteer and professional experience will be an asset. I hope you'll consider voting for me as the newest member of the board. I have all the characteristics of a board member: as a consensus builder, a community participant, a decision maker, an information processor, a leader, a team player, and as a trusted member of the community, I believe I'm the best qualified candidate to serve on the board after you get to know me better. I hope you feel the same.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tasnadi.
Yeah, so, the last election there was one person running, and now we have, I think it's 8. I'm talking to the teachers. They don't feel heard. The parents don't feel informed. So, and through no fault of the board, but I think it's time for change. I think with unique challenges, post-COVID, mass migration, just a lot going on, and I think we need some fresh blood on the board. I can promise all of you that none of you will agree with me 100% of the time. I'm an independent thinker. I don't align with one side or the other in the traditional red-blue divide. I can also promise you that I won't like all of the votes that I make, because I'm going to do my best to represent and vote for the things that the community is asking for, not my own personal agenda. So accountability, transparency, communicative, consensus builder, that's going to be me. I would very much like to serve all of you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Levitch?
It's been my honor to serve as a member of the White Plains Board of Education for the past 12 years. We've worked to build a strong, innovative, and inclusive community where students have access to education and to college and career preparation. We are nonpartisan, and we do not consider political agendas, but we value experience, continuity, and stability. We embrace our diversity, and we offer opportunities for each of our students at all levels. We offer increased AP and dual language courses each year. We recognize our students for multiple honors, AVID, biliteracy, and civic education. We look forward to moving our students forward as they prepare to pursue their aspirations in a diverse and dynamic world, and I ask that you support me for re-election so that I may continue to work for our White Plains students and family. I welcome any questions, and I'm happy to meet with anyone who wishes to further discuss the board's plans for the future of our children.
Thank you very much. Mr. Letizia?
In closing, I'd just like to say that John Dewey stated the purpose of public education is the cultivation of thoughtful, critical, and reflective and socially engaged individuals. In New York State, our charge as a Board of Education is the same, with the addition factor that we need to be guided by specific law, federal and state law. These state-specific guidelines ensure that New York public education is both inclusive and effective while providing our kids with the best opportunity towards success. As leaders of this school district, that is our legal and it is our moral obligation. This position requires humility, this position requires trust, this position requires time, and this position requires the willingness to compromise and work for all students. This is not, as Rose said, a political position. This is a position that requires unwavering commitment to serving the educational needs of all kids, guided by principles of fairness, inclusivity, and a shared vision for their success. I believe I possess the qualities of the trustee that White Plains needs, and I hope that you would vote for me on March 21st. And if you would like to reach out, as Rose said, I'm also available.
Okay, thank you very much.
Not March. Don't do March. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That wraps up the forum. You know, it's not easy to sit up here and put yourself in front of all these people, so let's give them a round of applause. I'm going to get this one right. The school board election is May 21st from 12 to 9. Okay, you can watch this forum on Optimum Channel 75, Verizon Channel 47 at 7 and 9 p.m., I believe the week before the election.
Just a
Good
quick
night.
word, some of the districts have changed, so go out, check the maps online to make sure that you're still voting in the same place you always did.
Just a quick thank you to timers, not only Barbara Shore and Doris Stingat, people coming, and folks, we urge you to join the League of Women Voters and join us in organizing these forums and other things. Thank you.